Welcome. I am here with Alexander Laughlin with Soul Inspired Artist, and I am Kaycey Hadel with the Elemental. And today we are going to talk about God particles, timelines, what those things are, and different interdimensional beings that we're seeing with this influx of energy. So, welcome, Alexander. It's good to see you.
I know, it's good to see you too. Thanks for having me as always. This
Yeah.
something about this topic really excites me because I think it's so prevalent right now, and there's so many things kind of going on beyond the physical that I think are really impacting the physical, though, really, really intensely. So, really great topic to talk about this week.
Yeah. So, I mean, it has just really felt like a huge influx of this, we'll say, interdimensional vibrational energy where we're all shifting to this next level, if you will, or up into those higher vibrational levels, jumping timelines. Kind of like this portal of light has opened up for us to all to shift, or there's particles there to helping with the shift. And I know right now that we don't really have any planets in retrograde, which is going to make things a lot easier for to shift into this new energy. But the one thing, I kind of want to discuss is how when we shift into this higher vibrational energy, our body starts releasing old timelines, old versions of us through that transformation. And so I know recently you kind of went through that where you went through a huge body purge. And did you want to kind of speak on that, kind of what you went through and
Sure.
what you
Yeah,
felt and saw?
yeah. So my friend has a labyrinth on their property, and they do a yearly burn of it. And she was saying, as the prairie, because it's in a prairie, as the prairie's burning, the labyrinth is burning, pick up sticks and, let them reflect what you want to let go of. And I was chucking a lot of sticks in there. Uh, I'm really just saying, like, I want to let go of all the ways that I'm holding myself back, was essentially in general what I was saying. And so the prairie burns, the labyrinth is open. I walk the labyrinth and I'm just starting to feel things moving. I'm getting a headache. I feel my stomach churning and get to the center. And then I walk back out, and people are looking at me and noticing that I have like bruises on my face. And like I had yellow on my face. I had like pink marks and then purple. And I thought it was maybe like the purple would be ashes, but I was trying to rub it off and it wasn't coming off. So I'm like, okay, well, this is intense. I didn't feel any pain in my face. Thought maybe something had attached to me during the burn. And so I sat with it, and I was connecting to an older version of myself who was trying to get my attention, and was through the labyrinth and the burning was able to really kind of rise up more into my awareness and was getting my attention in this bruising. And he was saying the bruising is just representative of the fear that I have around being who I was, because he was showing me like being like beaten alive and things like that for being and expressing his truth, something that I deal with. And so he was coming up in this really extreme way and showing me it in a really extreme way. And so I go home and I take a long nap, take a shower, and I sit with it further. And I'm just holding it, nurturing it, listening to this version of myself, and then actively inviting him to transition and move on, essentially.
Yeah.
And so once I feel that process was complete, I started to feel that churning again in my stomach, and I ended up throwing up and
Oh,
literally purging this version of me. And then I felt really great after. And it was a really big thing for me, because this fear of being who I am and expressing my truth is something that's had a grip hold over my entire life. And so I feel like with the burning and the acknowledgement, all this high energy coming in just gave me the invitation to not be afraid of it anymore, and to allow it to move on, instead of
yeah.
like continuing to hold on to it and personally identify with it, because I was done personally identifying with it. So
Yeah.
it was intense. It was an intense experience. but yeah, you described it perfectly. It's like without the retrogrades, I feel like, and with the new moon, it was a new moon this last weekend. There's all these kind of like working parts that helped me get to letting it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just feels like right now there's just uh these high intensity light waves that are coming in. And I always am a big fan that dates hold memories. And
Mm,
you're right there on this cusp. We're on the day of the new moon, right? And it's in that super earthy sign of Taurus, and you all just burn this labyrinth, that sacred spiral, right? And that's what life is that ebb and flow, these pieces of us that we decide to hold on to, or we release that old pattern,
hmm
right? So you're like spiraling around and releasing that old pieces of you through the body, because the body is always the last piece to go. And people don't understand, like, okay, you've been through all this change and then suddenly you're sick. Why
Yeah.
does that happen? Because there's like our body has to let go of it too, not just our mental or emotional, our spiritual sides. Those all have to let go as well as the physical side. So it's
Yeah.
amazing to me, like, okay, those burns or those bruises showed up on your face.
Yeah.
There's that primordial fire with those ancient symbols
hmm hmm
that cleanse you of this, we'll say, old version of you. So it's like this new timeline could come on board once you shifted that old shit out. So whatever those dates for your, we'll say, ancestral programming, I'm sure it has something to do with Beltane, because that's like, the sacred fire
Yeah.
coming back to life, like the all that energy, right? It's just
Yeah.
amazing.
I know, like when I looked in the mirror and saw the bruising, I'm like, oh my God, like, like you can't make that stuff up. Like there's no way that would have happened. So it's just amazing how you get the physical confirmation of what is wanting to be released or even things that are wanting to come in. But do you think that it's usually the body that's the last to acknowledge it? Or is there like, does it start with your emotions or does it just vary with the person?
It's yeah, I feel like it's always the body is the last piece to go. That's the last piece to transform. And either we do make the transformation and sometimes we don't.
Hmm.
And that's why we see a cycle of, we'll say, death and rebirth right now, but there's just so much healing, transformative energy out there that people are able to move through these healing portals, these portals of light, these things that you haven't been able to move for, I don't know, a decade, 20 years, past lives. It's just coming through and essentially spiraling that old patterns out. That chaos energy moves it out, burns it away, and that new steps in. And so,
hmm
yeah, the body is always the last piece to go. That's why, you know, we see those individuals, a lot of individuals going to the hospital or just passing away all of a sudden, is because we're all moving up to that, we'll say, next level, to those higher dimensions. And sometimes the body can't hold that new energy, or it can't let go of that old programming.
Yeah.
It wants to stay in the loop rather than break the cycle and transcend to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting you're talking about the whole hospital thing because my
Mm.
grandmother has been fainting for no reason, and doctors don't know what's going on, and so I'm thinking about this whole thing in this way of like, I wonder if there's things that she's not fully letting go of that are affecting her physical state, and that's why she's fainting because she's holding so much, and this energy is um, contributing to that in some way.
Yes, because those higher vibrations will kind of bring up they shine the light on the things that we need to let go of, but we may not always be aware of what it's shining the light on, right? Like we
Mm,
feel like we've processed it, but now there's a little something that's stuck in our throat
hmm
that we need to say, or put a boundary out about, or release, but we don't. And then it ends up that we can't swallow it anymore. And when I look
Mm-hmm.
at your grandma, I just see like this little black, like pearl of energy that's kind of like here in her throat.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always think of like our throat and our neck is the connection between our head and our heart, right? That bridges a lot of energy, but it's also our boundaries, our truths, speaking up for ourselves. That's a big one. Being able to say yes or being able to say no. I find that's a big one for a lot of people, especially us sensitives, because we feel what the other person wants. So it's harder for us to say no than it would be the the non-feelers, we'll say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
that's really interesting. Yeah, because I know she has a lot of pride too in her age. She's like 80, and I feel like she could beat me in an arm wrestling match still. And so she has a lot of pride, and so I know that she's had a hard time voicing how she's been really feeling about all this because it's been really hurtful for her. Um, but I want to ask you a question. So people who are um, feeling the intensity of the transformation happening, but having a hard time letting go because of the intensity, what would
yeah.
you recommend for people to do in that instance?
So there's when we're going through the transformation process, the first thing is we kind of have to just trust with the flow. And sit with whatever's coming up. A lot of times we just want to brush through. We just need to take a moment to sit with it. How am I feeling? Where am I feeling in the body? What does that look like? Scheduling in some time to do some healing work would be important, or if we can't seem to get to it ourselves, a process, right? But making that time and space to know that when we're in transition, and we're not, we'll say, moving as fast as we want, there's usually something for us to process, or that energy is assimilating, right? So taking time outside will always help. Focusing on something other than the problem, right? Because when we focus on the problem, then we create more problem. We want to focus in on the solution. Sometimes
Hmm.
we don't know what the solution is. We got to just take a breath and kind of let the dust settle. That's when
Right.
we like go outside and carry water, chop wood, right? Focus on something else rather than putting that under a microscope. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but I always feel like when that energy is, the transformation is coming in, it's like embracing the transformation and rolling with it rather than saying, oh shit, I'm fucking scared. I
Yeah.
don't know what to do. And then we kind of go into our fight or flight response rather
Hmm.
than, okay, let's look at this, let's process this. What is, and asking yourself a question, but what is really going on here? Where am I feeling this body? What color is it? It's black.
Hmm.
Okay. What color could I change it to? Blue. Okay, let's change it to blue, but that will also help move it through the body. But I find like being outside is such a big key signifier, and then also like shifting our energy to be um, more focused on the solution and embracing the solution. Because when we're going through that transformation, it's kind of like the universe is like, okay, you're here. You need to take some time to process. We create this little space for us to process. And then the universe moves us here, and that change is then presented like, okay, this is shifting here. You're jumping timelines. So embrace the change, because that change that is coming in is kind of like that new version of you going up to this higher timeline to those things that are better for you.
Hmm.
Does
Yeah.
that make any sense that I kind of get us lost on a
Yeah.
real?
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah. What I'm hearing from you is it's it's so much easier if you don't hold on. Like there are things that you don't even know are waiting for you that are so much more expansive than you holding on to this older version, essentially. Uh,
Yeah.
and trust, you just have to trust that, which can be really hard for people. But knowing that that is what's waiting for you can be encouraging for someone who is struggling with it.
Yeah. And I'm always a big fan of like, move out of your own way. I think you did that. Like you put yourself in such a transformative space, and it just kind of happened. It just kind of moved through you, but it's because you were open to the shift that it did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big point, is that you were open to it because the universe creates these little openings. And
Hmm.
right now there's like no planets in retrograde, and there's these little. wavelengths of light, or we'll call them God particles out there right now. But they're essentially like these little creator waves of light that are like, okay, there's this little opening here for you. Are you ready to shift? And you just reach out and grab that little wave of
Mm,
light. You eat it like a snack, or
mm,
it goes into your body and it's like, okay, boop, 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 boop. You get powered up.
mm,
You embrace that change and then you shift over. It's so much easier to make that shift than it was a year or two ago. But this energy of light is like here
mm.
for the next couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
So there's
Wow.
these opportunities to really shift into that new wavelength of energy if we reach out and grab it. We
Mm.
welcome it in, we embrace it rather than going, fuck no, I can't do this. I'm afraid. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting. I'm new to the idea of the God particle and that particular wavelength of light. When I feel into it, now being aware of it, it just feels like a really high concentrated form of spirit. Would that
Yeah.
be a good way to describe it, or how would you describe what it is?
I would describe it as an opportunity.
Mm,
There is an opportunity out there for us to be our highest and best self. And when we're born, when we're a baby, we come out of the womb, we are already that positively charged particle. We have no programming. And we have this opportunity to transcend that old programming and reach out and grab that opportunity and shift more into that higher version of us. But it's up to us to take the opportunity or watch it pass us by.
mhm.
Right? So it's like it's being open to the opportunity to transform. It's realizing that through the transformation, the universe is bringing something to you for your highest and best self that is better suited for your new vibration. But you have to allow the change to happen,
Yep. Yep.
right? And so we're big blockers of our own transcendence, right? Because we're still holding on to this version that of I can't or I won't versus I will and I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, too, like I feel like if I'm speaking like elementary language here.
No.
It might be because I have, an 11-year-old, but it's I have found lately that, these big changes that are coming for us, it's either we can say, no, I'm afraid, I'm scared, and we can fight or flight out of there, or we can go, okay, I'm going to embrace this and know that I am supported. And through this change and this shift, there's a better version or a better thing or opportunity that is there to come along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I'm so tired of looking over here in the negative and
Yeah.
trying to have it motivate me to be this over here. Why don't I just skip the middleman and just be like, well, there's this over here too. There's this version of me that's been wanting to come in, but I'm not making enough space for it because I'm always just looking at the negative stuff, thinking that if I think about it hard enough, it will motivate me to be this over here, which is such a silly contradiction in my eyes. That this has always been waiting for me. And yes, I have to acknowledge the things that are, negative that I have accumulated and cultivated within myself. But once I can acknowledge it and be like, actually, I choose a different path. I want to start looking at this path over here, which is a more expanded version than this over here.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, which feels easy. It feels easy. I know, or let me rephrase that. It's simple, but sometimes it's not easy. It's a simple shift of awareness, but
Yeah.
depending how attached we are to over here, it can be hard, which is why it's so important now since there's no retrograde to really take advantage of the grace. It seems like it has an energy of grace to it and
Yeah.
ease. If you can just lean into that a little bit, I think it makes the transformation a little bit more accessible for people, you know.
Yeah.
Another question I wanted to ask you is, are there any particular types of guides, ETs, anything that are associated with the transformation happening now that you've encountered?
I really feel there is such an opportunity to embody this this vibrational energy, this higher vibrational energy, that there's like these elements or these divas that are really coming online to help us ascend to that next level. And so out here at the property, I there's a lady of the woods that roams the property, and I just realized that she's actually a diva, DEVA, a type of wind element,
Mm,
or wind elemental. And she's here to kind of help shift us into that light. There's also more angelic frequencies up to grab, but as well as the adrenaline and that a lot of unicorn energy. I know it sounds funny, like unicorn energy, but you think of unicorns are anywhere between that. Sometimes you'll see them in the seventh dimension. Sometimes you'll see them in the 12th. Excuse me. Sometimes you'll see them in the up to the 17th. They're kind of multi-dimensional beings, but there's more of that unicorn and more of that Pegasus, just these higher vibrational or these um, intense frequency beings here to help us with the shift. And it's so much easier for them to help us because there's more light for them to embody their own energy here on the planet. So I know that when I've kind of been meditating, I was doing this the other day, there was all these unicorns that came in and they were kind of doing this healing work on me. And there's all these little horns or whatever, like pointed in the center. And then I was feeling this energy radiate out from that.
whoa, that's really cool.
Yeah. And so too, like with Pegasus, um, I always think of sometimes we see unicorn, sometimes we see Pegasus, sometimes it's a unicorn Pegasus. But it really feels like they embody such a heart space energy, that warm, like pink soul energy. And so
Mhm.
there's a lot of these beings that are helping with us to transition into more of a heart-based soul led life, right? It's
Yeah.
no longer leading from the ego, it's leading from our soul, which is our heart, which is our magnetism, if you will. That is where our light comes from, right? And then it translate out into our voice. And sometimes we don't even know when we're tapping into that, well, seventh to 12th vibrational energy,
Mhm.
what we're saying anymore, because it's coming right from our heart space.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
kind of like we can breathe or say those things that we want into existence by focusing in on the solutions, by focusing in on the what we want rather than what we don't want. It's a shift in perspective there too.
Hmm.
I got a little lost. Sorry about that.
No, I follow along with you every time. These peg the unicorns and all that, it just has a sparkly energy about it.
Yeah.
Like an electrical light that's really like soft but also activating. Um, and just really, I want to use a specific word here. Really, it just feels so directly connected to source, you know?
Yeah. And it's a lot of people feeling that source energy, that that vibrational energy that they're seeing that, okay, I have something here that I want to transcend. I want to transform this old outdated pattern or this old demon, if you will, following me around. And sometimes they really are demons, right? We sometimes they can be self-created elementals, but sometimes there are those demonic forces, those things that we haven't dealt with. And suddenly I find that people are like, all right, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm ready to shift. I want to be done with that. So I'm also seeing like an influx of these lower level entities or beings coming through because people are letting go of them.
Interesting. Wow.
And so I always think of like those demonic forces or that demonic energy. they can be quite interesting, but they're very heavy earth energy, essentially of our negative patterns. And a lot of people are like, okay, I'm seeing my pattern. I'm ready to shift and I'm ready to change because there's so much of that change, transformative energy here. And so all we got to do is reach out and grab it, and we're able to shift it so fast.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because that those other beings are here, with their pink, soft, fluffy goodness to support us in that shift. We just have to tap into the light.
Yeah. It's like they provide a really nice cushion for us. So I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes we almost jump into the light, and so they're there to like, oh, we're gonna catch you in this really nice soft little pillow as we're in the light a little bit. Um, Gosh, there's something else I was gonna ask you. Well, something I've been noticing doing spirit work, like working with spirits, is that they seem to be a little bit more, there's almost an urgent, like I feel almost an urgency from them, which is unusual because time for them isn't time for us.
Yeah.
But I think um my conspiracy around that is they know that there's all this light coming to the earth, and they really want to be transitioned during this time,
Yeah.
because there's just more portals open, there's just more light coming in, and I do feel like there's a split kind of happening where they're either staying in the confused, scared this part of the realm, or they're like, okay, finally these portals are open, let's jump in while they're here.
Yeah.
Another one of my friends who does spirit work too was telling me, she was saying that some of the there's darker entities like demons and things that will actually like enslave spirits, and some of them, because there's been so much light, they have been kind of exiting in a way because there's too much light for them, so more spirits are free, and that's why some of these spirits want to transition, because now they're like, oh my gosh, we're free, like let's step into the light now. So it's been interesting seeing this change happen for them too. um Similar, they also want to transform themselves. They're done being in this realm. They're ready to transition, which I feel like that's kind of what we're doing in a sense as well.
Yeah. I think we humans forget that they're more than just us, right? Because as we're going through this shift, the whole galaxy is going through this shift.
Hmm.
So, even spirits that have already transitioned into heaven, well, heaven's going through the shift. You know,
Yeah.
it's moving up to another higher octave there.
Yeah.
And so even with a lot of the clients that I have come in that we do the healing work, there are these beings that are there, and specifically that I noticed the other day, a hybrid between a troll and a gremlin that was chained to one of my clients.
Mm,
Right? He was chained into their ancestral line. He didn't realize he had been chained there for so long. So I released him. And once I did that, then he chained himself to me. Right. And I had to explain to him, I said, no, you're free. You can stay here in this space, in this sanctuary, right? Because I kind of feel like my property is a sanctuary for
for sure.
misfits or lost elementals.
Mhm.
Um, or you can go through the portal and go to another space, or you can reemerge back with uh source, right? Because sometimes they can't snap out of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so just getting those beings out of the mindset that you are a prisoner. Because sometimes they've been a prisoner or chained into these family lines for so long, they don't know any different.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I've been working on that today with this, hybrid troll gremlin combo, right? It always looks like a warrior troll to me is how I see them. Um, that it's you're free, right? So there is that freedom piece as well that's coming in. We're free from those old ancestral chains
Hmm.
that bind us, and that if we can shift those things that some people have been holding on their entire life, but if we can shift that in a matter of a couple weeks, wow.
I know, right?
And
Like,
that's because there's so much source energy here
yeah.
that's creator transformative energy, change
Hmm.
energy to shift. But I think one thing that people I think need to remember is it just allowing it to happen, allowing that energy to simulate. And it's okay to pause, to take kind of a break while our body is like coming back online before we make that timeline shift. And we always know when we make that timeline shift because suddenly those opportunities that we've been wanting or thinking about, or didn't even know existed, or then those doors are open,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's up to us to step through.
Right. And I
Yeah.
really like what you're saying about like just letting it happen too, because I think some people would be like, well, what do I do with this? Do I just surrender? Yes. You just surrender, but you also get to direct the flow if you want.
Yeah.
And you get to take the pauses when you need to pause and break, but the energy knows how to work through you. It knows where it needs to go. It's like taking this is kind of a crude way of saying it. It's like taking a pill for something. Like it knows where to go and how to work. You
Yeah.
you just have to like surrender to it because you're talking about like, yeah, eat it like a snack. I think that's a great example because it will know how to digest itself and help you to get over those humps and let go of X, Y, and Z things that are holding you back. So
Right.
there's no like you don't need to like create a checklist unless that feels good to you. But you're probably making more work for yourself than necessary. Sit back and
Right.
relax and let it do the work for you.
I just keep hearing like embody the light, embody your change. So they always say before, uh, if we're wanting a change and we don't know what it is, but we're wanting it, it's embodying it. So it's imagining what it'd be like once that change happened, like, and stepping into it and acting it out in your head, like taking that time to kind of channel that new version of you.
Yep.
And what that does is it taps into that little light code, into that God particle or source code, and it says, okay, well, you've already started to reprogram this next level. And even though you may not get exactly this image that you picture, sometimes you do, but it's knowing that that or better is being aligned for you, right?
Mhm.
Kind of
Yeah,
what?
I've had to work through not trying to manifest the thing that I want in great detail. 'Cause I get the message from spirit. It's like, you don't really know what the ideal situation is. You don't know what the ideal version of you is. I do. So just trust me, and it's probably going to be a lot better than what you've been picturing. So I'm
Yeah.
like, damn it. Okay, fine, sure. I'll surrender. I'll trust. Um,
Yeah.
when I was purging that version of myself too, I kept getting the message like you have a vacant space now. I need to intentionally pull in the light that is already around you. And so what was interesting is when I did that, um, I think this was the next day, my guides were telling me like affirmations and things that I can tell myself that will help me to embody more of that light.
Yeah.
So people might experience some downloads like that, but if you don't judge it because how you receive the information could be as subtle or obvious, and it's just a matter of just trusting whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. And so you said a thing there is like now that there was a space for that light to come in, right? So it's hard to shift into a new version of us if there's no room, we'll
Hmm.
say embody, no room for you to embody that new version.
Hmm.
So once you're able to, we'll say, release those old parts of you, and in hypnosis, there's it's the part of hypnosis, right? So it's the
Hmm.
mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical part. But once we are able to release those old parts, then those new parts of our physical or spiritual, right, can come in. It's like there's actually space for it to do that. And so I always am a big fan of like, okay, well, what can you delegate in your life, or who can you direct to do something that you don't need to do, but you're holding on doing,
Hmm.
right? To create more space in your life. Or what can we let go of an old pattern so that you do have space for those things to come in. So you did that by letting go of that old version of you, and then you just embodied that fire energy, which is it's
Yeah.
really amazing.
Yeah. It was really epic. It wasn't epic at the time. I didn't realize how epic it was until I actually reflected. But at the time I was really confused. I was a little scared. It felt like I was taking 10 steps back because it seemed like the fire was just revealing, it was just making that fear so much more alive in my body. And it's like you said, the body is the last thing to kind of let go.
Yeah.
And so it was just being pulled to the surface, which why it felt so intense. And my ego was like, oh my gosh, all the work we've just done has gone out the window because we're feeling all these things that we've worked really hard on. And so in the moment, I wasn't feeling um, the full process of the transformation. And I feel like some people might experience that where they feel like because it might be intense of what they're feeling, it's
Yeah.
really just the feelings being brought to the surface so they can literally be purged. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was really epic. And I have a lot of water in my chart. So it was nice to feel that fire, that quick transmutation of the burning and the purging, because
Yeah.
the water is just it can be water can be stagnant, you know. And
Yeah.
so I needed the water to boil a little bit, which was really good.
I just keep thinking about during a lot of my hypnosis sessions, when people are in those theta brain waves or those super relaxed brain waves, right? That's how we get to a lot of the patterning or to the past life. But when we're experiencing those patterning or we're doing that inner child healing, let's say we got our heart broken, or uh we had to take on the heaviness from our family, all their burdens we had to carry on with us. People will physically feel, oh, my heart really hurts, or oh God, I have this pain in my shoulder, right? From the body holding on to that old patterning. And then once we're able to feel it or tap into that, where the body is holding it, it will release,
Mhm.
right? So it's making room for that new version
Yep.
upgrade. But it's funny how we'll feel that, or those physical symptoms will show up in the body, like yours, that bruising on your face. And I think you said a point where there was you had been beaten because of who you had been in those past lives,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's looking at how you physically embodied that past life, like that energy was just, you got it triggered it to bring it up to the surface.
Mm.
And then after you got sick, I think you said the bruising was gone.
Yeah, I looked in the mirror and it was gone. Like it just like faded away. And that surprised me. We talk about
Yeah.
kind of miraculous things happening, but something like that where bruising just goes away after you purge, like, I mean, that amazed me. And that was great confirmation of what I'd released too. So I'm really thankful for that physical
Wow.
confirmation. Um, I also feel like I've been doing a lot of processing in my dreams too.
Wow.
Does that happen to you as well?
Yeah, I had this dream the other day about floating down with my grandma, like my great grandmother Pine, who has this fiery red hair, wonderful woman. But it was in the dark, and I was in this boat with her, and I was floating down this river, but it was a pink, sparkly river of selenite.
Beautiful. That's really cool.
Right? Which is like, we know that pink relates to the higher heart, right? But it's also that vulnerability. But it was in selenite, which we know the selenite is about clearing and releasing. So it's that, as we release that, you know, something bad's going to happen, or nothing ever good happens to me, or whatever that is, there's a clearing there, like taking place, so that we can focus in on those bright little sparkly things. Or I also kind of felt like it was your soul is being supported this so that this new things can come. I don't know, it was really cool.
Wow, your dreams seem so much nicer than mine. I, man, my dreams, I feel like I've been doing a lot of processing for the collective because I'll have dreams about like wars and like
Cool.
trafficking and um and I really think that's just a sign of, how much I'm taking in unnecessarily. Um yeah, I want to have selenite dreams like that. That sounds lovely.
Well, so I think that happens for a lot of people. So I try to say this to myself, or when I feel like I'm processing collective goo, uh, I release myself from processing the collective emotions, entities, and energies that don't belong to me.
Mm,
And then
mm,
I'll say that several times until I kind of feel like a shift in my body or a shift of the energy. Uh, but I also find too that I process my family stuff. So I have noticed not so much in my dreams, but just like a heaviness on my shoulder, or like a grabbing of my arm that I'm processing my mother's energy,
mm,
which
mm,
she holds a lot of the, we'll say the collective dynamic there. And I just release myself from it by
mm,
saying that little mantra that I said, or I'll cut the cords and hooks and kind of push her energy out of my field or send her through a portal because it doesn't do me any good to carry it around with me. And
yeah.
sometimes we can transform it, right? So I like to imagine like where I feel like someone's grabbing my arm or my mother's grabbing my arm to come do this or come take care of this. I just imagine that hand and let it change into little butterflies.
Mhm.
Right? And
Cool.
then you can also like, okay, what color are the butterflies? Oh, they're yellow. Do you want them to be yellow or would you like them different color? Different color. Well, what color would you embody them to be? Blue. So then I just release those little blue butterflies, right?
Mm,
Which kind of helps shift that energy wherever you're feeling like that collective is coming in. I feel like for you, it's like just pulling that collective energy off and then reattaching into the sun.
mhm.
Um, But
Hey,
sometimes we can't help it when we're sleeping because we're outside outside of our body, right?
I know, right? Hey, I want to pause for just a second.
Sure.
Is it still recording for you?
Yes.
Okay, for some reason my screen did a weird thing and I was like, oh, I hope nothing wrong happened on your
You're
end. Okay,
okay.
just wanted to double make sure.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, yeah, doing a lot of the processing outside of the body. Yeah, that's such a simple thing that I keep forgetting that, I have agency of what I take on, and sometimes it just takes a simple acknowledgement of what I'm carrying and then saying no, like not mine, release yourself, come back to center. Because we're already
Yeah.
doing, we're all, I feel like a lot of us, especially people who are sensitive and empaths, you take on more than I think we realize and we confuse it with our own stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what this light, this God particle, whatever you want to call it, is kind of revealing to us. Like we're carrying heavy loads, and some of it we don't even really have to carry anymore because it
Yeah.
wasn't even yours to begin with. So
Yeah.
I've been really thankful for that, just that revealing, you know.
Yeah. It also might be too like why you're carrying it or we're carrying it. Is there's like a family programming there for that chakra or energy that kind of holds space in your ancestral line. So it's just a natural thing
Yeah.
to walk around with it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that's how it is for me anyways. And it's just being consciously aware when our energy shifts out of nowhere. Is
Yeah.
this mine or someone else's? Someone else's. Okay. Well, I'm going to send it back to sender and bring my energy back to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean like the person gets more. What it does mean is that you're not walking around with that giant weight on the shoulder because how can we assist or hold space for anyone else if
Right.
right we're lost in their energy? We got to be the light tower, if you will,
Yeah.
like hold hold our energy in our heart space and be grounded rather than woo.
Yeah, I know. Like it's so easy for me to get lost in the sauce sometimes. I'm like, all right, we had some fun at that circus. Let's go back home for a little bit now. So
Yeah.
it's
Not
been
my monkey's not my circus.
my monkeys, not my circus. I'm gonna step back as much as I want to help. I know this is not my job here.
Yeah.
So
We just hold the space like,
yeah,
okay, I'm gonna send them this energy and hope that it gets better for them.
yeah,
Right? Or
yeah,
I'm gonna send them a little bit of joy, but then I'm gonna set it aside because we
yeah.
can only do so much.
Right. Something
Need
that's
that
helped me.
too.
It's helped me so much to say, whatever they do with the energy I send them is none of my business. So I know that I'm giving them something great. Whatever you choose to do with it, I just hope it's planting seeds or you're using it for something that's beneficial for you.
And what a great time to plant seeds. Really,
Right. Right. Right.
so many levels. Like right now is the time where we really start embodying those things that we want or those shifts that we want and imagining it. Because once we plant that energetic seed, it's just there's so much light for that plant, if you will, or
Mm,
that
hmm
energy to grow into something beautiful and
hmm
12 times as fast as that it would normally grow. So there's a lot of instant manifestations happening, which if you have that happen, it's a little spooky at first. You're like, whoa,
Uh-huh.
okay, let me be mindful with my manifestations,
Yep.
making
Yep.
sure I'm being really crystal clear about what I want. Because
Uh-huh.
then we get, I think that's really important, at least for me, because
Uh-huh.
that manifestation will come to light. It will happen. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
I need to be clearer next time.
Yeah. Oh, I know that. Well, even yesterday, I don't know if it was more of a manifestation or just a reflection of how I was feeling, but I was really upset about something the other day. And I got in my car really upset, and people were driving nuts around me. And I'm just like, oh, we need to be careful about, because I felt like it was just a reflection of what I was feeling. I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Let's take some calming breaths and calm down. But it just
Yeah.
seems like, yeah, things are just aligning to what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you want. It's just it's so ramped up now because there is so much more light that can make it happen, you know?
That realizing influence, how much influence we have over ourselves, over others, over the energy, over our lives. When we get that validation with like the drivers driving crazy, uh, it's realizing that we embody so much of that reflection, of the things around us, or vice versa, right? We're reflecting this anger, so then all the cars are angry around us. Or I think of when a friend had come to me and it was so loud. Everything was so loud for her. And we were outside and she's like, the insects, the locusts, everything's so loud. I'm like, well, just turn it down. Imagine, right? It seems so simple, but
Mhm.
imagine that stereo knob or that little button on your phone that hits down, and we're going to turn that knob down and we'll just quiet it down, bringing our energy back to self, bringing that peace back in, bringing back in that joy,
Yeah. Yeah.
balance. And then it was really wild, but all the locusts, all the crickets, all the grasshoppers, they were so loud. I think this was in July, and then peacefulness,
Wow.
right? It
Wow.
was it was really wild, but we all are one. It's very, very relevant. So if we stay in our center, in our light tower, we are the peace, then we have a lot more peace embodied around us as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that saying.
Ripple effect.
What was that?
The ripple effect or the butterfly effect, right?
Yes. Yes. It's you can't reflect what you're not the vibration of. So, you know.
Yes, embodiment again.
Mm-hmm. Look at this full circle happening here.
Right? Right? Because
Um,
Just a big spiral.
Yeah, exactly. A big labyrinth. We're walking around this labyrinth
Yeah,
all the time, you know?
yeah,
So the
yeah.
labyrinth of life. Ooh, that'd be a good like book title or something. Someone needs to take advantage of that.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so gosh, I feel like I'm trying to think if there are any other questions. I feel like there's so many other questions I have. None of them are landing.
Yeah, I just feel like the biggest thing for people right now is to take some time to really focus on what you want. Allow the change to happen. Invite that change in. Do the healing work, right? We call it work. Do the healing. Allow the healing to happen. Make space in that in your life to take some time. If you don't know what you need to process, but you feel like there's something there, then schedule with someone that can hold that space for you. And allow that transformation in and trust that it can happen and embody what you really want versus, Snicker bars and cigarettes, right?
Yeah,
But
that's also another name to a book, I think.
that's just
Um,
one thing, but it's what are we feeling ourselves full of on our mental level? On how are we balancing the monkey mind? How are we balancing our emotions? How are we balancing our physical and our spiritual, right? But in order to, we'll say, vibrate in this multi-dimensional world is without balance, we find ourselves all cattywampus, like a car that just lost the wheel. And once we regain that balance, then it's kind of like that portal of light shifts in and that opportunity to change an upshift is there for it to happen and just trusting in that process.
yeah, trust the process, and especially if you are releasing a lot of things, to just remember to snack on that light that wants to fill the rest of those spaces.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, I think it's so important because I'm someone who's like who wants to be over here, but I haven't made any space for this to land in here. It's almost like
Mm.
I want to take a shortcut, and it's not possible. You have to make space for it. So you have to release so that this other stuff that you really want, that you actually really want, can come in and help you to align to a reality that's most reflective of your highest self.
Yeah.
So
And to
yeah.
trust in the flow, because it feels like, especially with that last new moon, I know that the energy felt like a shakeup, right? It just felt like somebody was like
Yeah.
shaking me, or like the energy felt very chaotic. But when that chaos comes in, it kind of shakes up that old and shakes it loose so it
Hmm.
can be released.
Yeah, chaos is good sometimes. Sometimes you need the chaos to
Yeah.
stir things up. Otherwise, things get too stagnant and dry and mucky. And the shakeup makes it loose so it can come out easier, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty chaotic this weekend. It's so funny how sometimes I forget that there are astrological events happening around
Right.
me that cause these things that can uh, amplify what I'm already feeling. And so, just also I feel like telling people like, just be aware that there are so many other things going on around you that you can't even tell that are affecting you. So don't blame everything on you all the time. Like there are outside forces,
Yeah.
and just know that you can always draw a positive experience from these things. There's always a divine truth you can extract from anything, and it just takes the awareness that that's possible to do so. Yeah.
It's kind of like when we're going through it, it can feel rough and exhausting and all those things. But if we take a step back from it and allow it to just move through us rather than become us,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
an important part there. Because a lot of people, it's just how it is right then. This too shall pass. And it's allowing that energy to move through and pass through you and transform you rather than going, ah.
Yeah, right, right. Because
Do that too, as long as you know. that this too shall pass.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the energies they don't want to stay either. They do want to move through you, which I
Yeah.
have to remind myself that all the time. It's like, no, these feelings that you're feeling make you super uncomfortable because they want to leave. They want to pass
Right.
through you. And you're
Yeah.
for some reason closing the door and keeping them in the closet. They're trying
Yeah.
to escape.
It-
You're holding them hostage, you know?
right. And I find like that a lot of times for me especially, like, I know that I need to go sit with it, but I don't really have time. But there's also another part that is like stubborn. Like, I don't have time to do this. I got to do this. But if I would just make the time to go and sit or make space to allow it to move through me, I'm going to be so much better.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
you got to do the shadow work.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
important. And those astrological events like the dark moon, if you will, the shadow moon, it's a good time for it. It's a
Hmm.
good time during the full moon because there's just that much more transformative energy out there.
Right,
Mm.
right. Take advantage of those moments when they come because they'll make it easier for you to access what needs to be accessed to move through you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm,
Well, thanks for sharing all that knowledge today. I hope that this little tidbit of information, all the transformative energy that you've been through and I've been through and that we've been experiencing, this will help other people to be able to ride the waves rather than letting them crash down upon us.
yeah, I hope so too. It's always a pleasure to talk about these things and normalize them and get them out there in the hopes that people can start living their life with a little bit more ease and grace as we're going through these pretty intense times.